is ShrimpZoo. I'm an investigative journalist based in Buffalo, New York, and I cover coronavirus, the protests, lockdowns, and everything related to 2020. I go inside hospitals to discover the truth behind coronavirus, and I go to the protests to see what's really going on in the streets of America.
This could be bad.
ShrimpZoo videos. And ShrimpZoo Addy ads on the street covering protests, and we're still not loving police. Antifa's trying to fight us, but we're still covering these things. This is the Pandemic Podcast, The Great Awakening, and we're covering riots, protests, everything on the streets in New York State, in Buffalo, Rochester, and around the world. I'm live streaming, I'm vlogging, everything related to the pandemic and the protest, that's all here on ShrimpZoo and Addy Ads. We're covering all of it. The fires, the riots, BLM, Antifa, MAGA, Biden, the elections, Fauci, 5G, aliens, UFOs, everything. And I lean to the left and he leans to the right.
Yo, what's up, people? This is Addy Ads. Check out our store we got on the ShrimpZoo channel. Selling masks, t-shirts, leggings, and more. Check it out, folks.
This is the Great Awakening Podcast with your host ShrimpZoo and Addy Ads. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Also, we both have Patreon accounts, so hit those up too if you're generous and feel like donating. Alright, let's get into this video now.
What is up, folks? This is Addy Ads, Anakin Skywalker, the chosen derp of YouTube. I'm here with Uncle ShrimpZoo. What it do, Shrimp? It's been a minute since we connected, but I'm glad to be talking to my brother ShrimpZoo. He's based out of Buffalo, New York. He is part of our greater network here in the United States of America. And I am reporting on behalf of Neighborhood News Studio, and ShrimpZoo is a part-time affiliate of Neighborhood News as well. Mr. Webb, George, will be joining us as well. El Maestro is going to join us pretty soon here, but it's been a minute, Shrimp, since we touched base last, and I'm glad to see you, brother. Glad to see you doing well. I know Luna, everyone's favorite pit terrier, was sick last week. She actually didn't eat or drink for like 3 days. I was very worried about my baby girl Luna. ShrimpZoo's baby girl is probably a better way to put it. The famous bull terrier out of Buffalo. She's doing a lot better now, thankfully. But how are you doing, Shrimp, on this fine Tuesday evening in December 2020?
I'm doing good. I'm surviving the pandemic.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And I'm here in Atlanta, folks. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Buckhead region. Thanks to my sponsor, Miss Deep George Peach. Eternally grateful for her for supporting my work and for supporting a greater extension, not only myself, but the Neighborhood News Network and ShrimpZoo as well. And Shrimp really helped me out in a spot earlier this year. When I was in a tough spot, and Shrimp, put me up in his house in Buffalo for about a month, and I will be always grateful to Shrimp for that. This is wartime, folks. We are in a soft war here against the deep state, a quote-unquote non-violent war against the controllers, the deep state, the powers that be, whatever moniker you would like to use for these people. Regardless, we're all in the fight for the truth, and although we may not always see things the same way, we're all on the same team for liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. What you been up to, Shrimp? I actually haven't spoke to you in a while. It's been a minute since we've done a cast, and we do have a channel that we run together, Pandemic Podcast. It's ShrimpZoo's secondary channel, so if people could subscribe to me and Shrimp and the Neighborhood News Studio, that would be fantastic. We are being shadow banned.
Check
Shrimp,
out our Twitters too.
Please do.
And ShrimpZoo. We
and
both post good stuff on there more than YouTube.
to George's Twitter as well. George actually just got hacked.
I saw that.
When we were meeting with George Peach, he got hacked, and it really is a big loss. Unfortunately, he had about 70,000 followers on his Twitter before that hacking. So if people could please go and subscribe to George on Twitter or follow George on Twitter. We're in the thick of it here in Atlanta, and we are extending our network. Individuals do not survive in wartime, folks, and ShrimpZoo is definitely on the light side. The team good guys. He's one of the Jedi Masters that I have been following throughout this pandemic, and it's a small group. We are a pretty small group, but we are trying to make changes in the world here as it goes. And I just want to update people on what I've been doing. I've been doing a couple great stories here, if I do say so myself, in Atlanta. The Harrison Deal death, which was very unfortunate, young man who was killed in a car explosion on Friday. The boyfriend of the daughter of Governor Kemp, which I think could accurately be perceived as a warning to Governor Kemp not to investigate any sort of election fraud here in the Peach State of Georgia. And that is one story I've been covering, as well as the ballot trafficking going from the election prep center to Sheriff Jackson's office. Sheriff Jackson, Ted Jackson, as we have mentioned, or as I have mentioned before on previous cast, for example, last night, started his career at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, along with the well-known sheriff from Florida in Polk County out in Tampa, Sheriff Grady Judd. And this is something that I kind of came into awareness on my own accord. I was wondering, why is this sheriff always popping up on the YouTube homepage? He's on ABC, he's on Fox on a regular basis. Why this sheriff over all the other counties in the United States, the numerous counties in the United States? I did a little bit of research, didn't take that much effort, into Sheriff Grady Judd, who also started his career at where else but the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well. So this is something that I have noticed. It seems to be a tactic, or rather a strategy, long-term strategy of the FBI to place controlled sheriffs throughout counties in the United States. Grady Judd, Ted Jackson being the two that we mentioned here. On top of that, I also have been looking into the story of the Lenox Mall shooting. Lenox Mall, just a stone's throw away from where I'm staying right now in Buckhead, Atlanta, one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, along with Beverly Hills and Sarasota as well. And great story you pulled up there, Shrimp, as well. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. I saw this on Twitter. This is aliens for a one world government, folks. Please do not buy this. There are no aliens. We are the aliens. Just look at me and Shrimp. Look, and George. We all, just look at all of us, guys. We all look very different. We're all part of the same great species, Homo sapiens. I believe that this ploy, this propaganda of aliens, is attempting to be used as a medium for propelling forward the one world government. If anybody's seen the movie Independence Day with Will Smith, one of my childhood heroes, Will Smith really had a profound influence on me as a senior in high school as I dug into his background, really great work ethic, fantastic work ethic from Will Smith. One of the books that I actually learned or came to knowledge about from Will Smith was The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, which is a fantastic book. I actually gave my original copy to my good friend Grant in Wisconsin. I just want to give a shout out to my friend Grant. He is a brother of mine, and really a great message there from Randy Pausch about living your truth, following your dreams. And I'm tying this back to Independence Day because that is a movie in which the uh, species of humanity unites against an alien race. Now, why am I talking about this? Because of the story that Shrimp brought up of these aliens, supposedly, that the Israelis have found or encountered or have been in contact with for several years. I am not buying it. I think this is a ploy to get us joined together as a one world government. And I want to give a shout out to everybody for checking in. Graham Misty, Mr. Lorette as well, who is, I know, an avid follower of Shrimp, and my good friend in Ireland, Dolly, as well. David, Brew, we all thank you guys for joining us tonight. Really in the thick of it here, guys. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm covering the election fraud. There is election fraud. It's blatant. It's obvious. We're running out of time as far as the coup is concerned, and I do want to make the point that I am not a Republican at heart. I am actually a registered Democrat. I want free, I want fair elections for our republic. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And a lot of people don't realize that. But we have a nation here that is the object of lots of envy from around the world because of the freedoms that we are afforded as Americans. I was in Germany last year for Thanksgiving, visiting my family, and I missed a flight in Stuttgart, Germany, and consequently, I spent a night in a hotel room. And in that hotel was a couple gentlemen I spent the night with, including one Serbian. And this Serbian gentleman, who I'm still on good terms with, I'm in touch with via social media, he relayed to me that the Serbians, they call our country, the United States of America, they refer to it as the promised land. And everywhere you go, and this is something I think that people don't realize in greater America, especially the people who aren't as well traveled as some of us, like myself, and certainly George, and I know Shrimp as well is someone who is very smart and has a good grasp on geopolitics. All of these people in these foreign lands, they all want to come to one place, and that is our country, our nation, the United States of America. And the reason for that is because of the freedoms that we are afforded as Americans due to our Constitution and our founding fathers way back in the day, about 150 years ago. So I do want to make that clear because not everyone has the fortune of being well traveled, and that's totally fine. That's understandable. Not everyone has the privilege to go to other countries, and I do consider myself very lucky for having been to all the countries that I have been to. Home of the free, brave, and masked, says Jaded Optimist, and that is something too that I spoke about with Mr. Christian Gray, who I actually just had dinner with. We had a drink as well. He just dropped me off at my hotel before convening with Shrimp today. Is the fact that our country is really at the pinnacle of liberties in terms of world history. So that's something I wanted to start off with. But I just want to pass it off to ShrimpZoo and see what he has to say about everything he's been covering in Buffalo, a fellow investigative journalist in New York. I personally don't like the word journalist. It's got a slimy connotation for me. And as far as my own description of what I do, Christian Gary asked me this earlier tonight. How would you describe what you do? Investigative reporter is a little bit nicer moniker. Public intelligence works, interviewer as well. But really just trying to get to the truth of what is going on here in Republic. And Shrimp is under the realm of the Cuomo reign, Emperor Cuomo over in New York. So
we call him King Cuomo here.
not because you want to, because you have to, right, Shrimp?
Well, I don't call him that, but it's common to see bumper stickers that say King Cuomo, but it's not a compliment, it's an insult.
And there was I don't know if you saw this, Shrimp, but I think it was a Staten Island bar owner. He held a press conference either earlier today or yesterday talking about this, and this war on small businesses continues to wage. I think more and more people are waking up to this. It really is fascism, a marriage of state and corporation, and a marriage on a war on the middle class, the business owners, the lay people, as it stands today. There is a Staten Island bar manager, and it's something I feel for, because I do think that these patriots, these Americans, are waking up to this fascism that is going on in the country.
You know that he hit a cop, though, Addy, right?
I did not. What can you tell me about that, Jim?
Two cops, and he said that they were dressed all in black and they weren't identified, and then he hit him. They say that one of the cops broke his leg because he got ran over, but his attorney says he just sprained his ankle. He ran out of the bar because he was going to be arrested because he was selling liquor, and they weren't supposed to be because they were in lockdown in that part of Staten Island. And then so he hit two cops with his car fleeing. And I think his defense is going to be that he didn't know they were cops. So but yeah, that's what happened. It doesn't appear that he probably broke the cop's leg, but if he did, then he'll probably go to jail. He's like the manager or something. Some people call him like the co-owner. Other places call him the manager.
Who are you referring to there, Brew? We want to know. Are you referring to George Webb or ShrimpZoo or myself? This is need to know information. But here in Atlanta, as I said, covering the shootings as well at Lenox Mall. And I'm trying to find out why these shootings are going on, because Lenox Mall is located in the Buckhead portion of Atlanta, which, as I mentioned, is one of the wealthiest counties here in the United States of America. And on top of that, we have the United Kingdom undergoing probably worse, fascist behavior than we are experiencing here in the United States from their police. Not to mention the part of the Commonwealth over in Australia as well. And I do have an interview coming out very soon with an Australian citizen speaking his part on what he's experienced over in Australia. Now, on top of that, we have to mention the fact that the people here in Georgia are very aware of the fraud that's going on. And we did receive news earlier today that Texas has sued, and I think Florida is following suit. I want to say it was the Supreme Court as far as the election is pertains. So this election is still up in the balance, but we are running out of time. as far as the election goes. I did not vote. I tried to vote, but I think it does give me a little bit more credibility as an influencer, insofar as I do want a fair and free election, regardless of who wins it. I think all votes, legal votes, should be counted. I don't think that felons should vote. I don't think that dead people should vote. I don't think that minors should vote. And we are seeing all of this. We have seen all of this in this state of Georgia. Now, despite that, we do have Governor Kemp, who last week called for a signature audit of the election, and just a few days later, on Friday, the death of Harrison Deal occurred. Again, Harrison Deal, boyfriend of the daughter of Governor Kemp, as well as the assistant to one of the current senators of Georgia, one being Kelly Loeffler, who was the person whose assistant was Harrison Deal, and the other being Mr. Perdue. So these people, as we can see, do not rule out violence as part of their MO. I do think they are feeling the heat. They're feeling desperate as far as the election goes. But what are your thoughts on this whole election process, Shrimp? Do you see similar things happening in New York? I know you're kind of out in a Republican-esque area, a little bit more conservative out there in the country near Alden, New York, kind of in between Buffalo and Rochester. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the election situation? I think you're muted there, Shrimp. Here, let me unmute you. There you go.
It doesn't matter who's the president, because the governor is going to do like whatever. Cuomo's going to handle the vaccinations and the lockdowns and all of that stuff. So gyms and like beauty salons and movie theaters, malls, all that stuff will be locked down under the governor. Just like it was before, like he locked down all that stuff a bunch of times in schools and everything. And he locks that stuff down under Trump, so under Biden it would just be the same. I just don't really worry about it. I'm pretty convinced that Biden is going to be the next president, like 99% sure.
It does seem like the coup is going to be successful, the soft coup that is going on. And as we mentioned before, this is something that has been done in several countries. And Mr. Buckley on our cast last night made the point that how do we know any of these elections worldwide haven't been rigged from the start? You know, so how do we know any of our elections are valid? Well, we really don't, and I think that's the rhetorical part of the question: is the dubiousness of not only this election but other elections as well. And when you look at the United States as the forefront of liberty and freedom, in not just the West but the world at large, here on planet Earth, it's disheartening, certainly, when you look at the situation we find ourselves in, where one does not know what to believe. What can you believe? What are your trusted sources? And that's where we are trying to fill in the gaps. And I hope people are aware of that and understand that we are doing our best to provide truth, provide realism. And as some of you may know, Shrimp and I actually did attend a few BLM protests in Buffalo. Unruly, immature, cantankerous, argumentative, We got water thrown in their face. This is the type of people we're dealing with at these protests. They do not wish to debate or even argue their points. It's a zero-sum game for them, which is quite unfortunate. Trump will pull this out. He knows too much, says Misty. I hope you're right. I really do. And I did a story earlier this week about the trafficking of ballots from the election center here in Georgia, Fulton County. I am in the thick of it here in Atlanta, and I'm always open to hearing new sources. I do have two very big sources here in Miss Deep Georgia Peach, as well as Deep Georgia Bulldog as well. So I just want to make that point clear too. But do you have any fears, ShrimpZoo, as it pertains to freedom in elections and the future of our country? Because you're, as you said, pretty sure that Biden will complete this coup. And I posted a video on my channel earlier today, straight from the horse's mouth, a lackey or member of the CCP talking about the trouble or challenge that Trump has dutifully provided for the Chinese, insofar as he's not falling in lockstep with their every want and need, not only domestically, but in the foreign sphere as well. And he even said himself that anybody or anything can be bought with the right amount of money. And I do hope that he is wrong about that, because I do want to believe that there are patriots who will not sell out our country for a few dollars, who will not betray their countrymen for money. But it does seem like the swamp is so deep, the cabal is so much in control that they can control every aspect of our lives here in the United States. And the question really is the judicial system. How will the judicial system react or act in this situation of a debated election where, if you don't have any trust in your election process, what do you have, especially in a republic? Now, we saw the situation in Belarus, whereby Lukashenko was on the receiving end of riots, protests, etc. over in Belarus, whereby 80% of the vote supposedly went to him. There was 3 days without internet over in Belarus, where they cut the internet, cut all communications for the Belarusians, such that they could not communicate about what was going on. And that is, I think, still on the table here in the United States. Will they cut the generators on the East Coast and the West Coast and make it such that we are in the dark about what is going on? I think it's still on the table, but at the same time, as Shrimp said, we are running out of time as far as the election goes. So that's something I wanted to add as well. What are your thoughts about all this, Shrimp?
Well, there's wars popping up all over, like Belarus, Armenia, Ethiopia, and there's a bunch of other countries getting involved in that conflict. North America, there's a lot of social unrest. Parts of South America. So there's wars and social unrest popping up everywhere. The last couple of days, England has started a mass vaccination program, so most people there will probably be vaccinated. It will happen in the next week or two in America, where we'll start vaccinating everybody.
I did see they did their first vaccination in Australia, and just to add to the clownishness of everything that's going on, the absurdity, the reporter, journalist, show, whatever you want to call them, on that particular report that I saw said that the vaccination does not prevent one from getting the virus, nor does it prevent one from spreading the virus. So, what is the point of getting the vaccination if there is a 95% protection rate as opposed to the 99% survival rate of the virus without the vaccine? How can you justify getting the vaccine? That's my point that I think I want to make with regards to the vaccine, because it's something that I'm not going to sign up for voluntarily, certainly, and even if it was tried to be forced upon me, it's a red line. I think it's a red line for many people. Certainly, it's a red line for me. It's where I draw the line. Forced vaccinations, it reminds me of World War II and shipping off Jews to the concentration camps. And thanks to Shrimp for plugging my Patreon. I do want to give a shout out to ShrimpZoo's Patreon as well. And I will be visiting ShrimpZoo again sometime in the near future, probably within the next couple of months or so. And Shrimp and I will be heading to the Mecca, that is New York City, as well. That is in the plans to go see Dr. Paul Cottrell in the flesh, as well as anybody else in the New York City area who may or will be willing to work with us and collaborate with us. So I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Cottrell on that.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. My plan would be to rent like a big van, like the biggest size van, or maybe even a small camper, and then go to a bunch of different places. I think that would be pretty sweet. I don't know if I would leave Luna here or bring her with me, but yeah, we could go to New York City and like get a lot of film there, and we could do a lot of stuff. We could talk to a lot of people in New York City. We could drive there easily.
We should definitely bring Luna if we can swing it. I think that'd be awesome. But I'm actually at the Hilton here in Atlanta. Hopefully nobody tracks me down. But there you have it, folks. Very nice hotel that my sponsor put me up here in Atlanta, Georgia. As I said, I'm covering this election fraud that is going on in our great country. And I do want to hammer the point home that I am not a cheerleader for the right or the left. I'm simply trying to provide the facts of what is going on, not only here in Atlanta, but around the United States in general. And
do you remember when Jenny McCarthy was like super anti-vax? Before, it was like all the liberals that were anti-vaxxers before. But I guess not anymore. I'm not sure.
Similar to the mask situation.
Wow, Paul has better hair than Addy.
I'll leave that up to the viewers to decide. But I do know that one viewer said that Paul lost his sex appeal when he cut his hair, but it's grown back, ladies. So don't worry. Paul Cottrell does have the ability to grow his hair back.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I want to have him on my channel.
And Dr. Cottrell really has been a kind of a linchpin for many of us. It's certainly how I found George and Shrimp. Was through Dr. Cottrell. So I do want to give a plug for Paul Cottrell's channel as well. who has been the victim of the bleeding subscriber algorithm, as I am calling it. At one point in time, ShrimpZoo had 25,000 subscribers. He's now down to like 15,000 or south of 15,000. Likewise with Dr. Cottrell, I think he was at 45,000 subscribers. Now he is at around 40,000 last time I checked. And we are all independent, folks. So I do want to make that known. No intelligence agencies behind us yet. No, I'm just kidding. We are independent journalists, if people want to call us that. I really don't like that word. Journalist has a slimy connotation for it in my eyes. Interviewer, media producer is a little nicer moniker in my eyes than journalist. You know, those people at ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CBS, Fox, OAN, Newsmax, etc., they can take the moniker of journalist if they like. They can have that all to themselves. I'm not a journalist. I am a truth teller, interviewer, documentarian, historian. These all work. But journalist, I will pass on that label if everyone be so kind. But that being said, ShrimpZoo is somebody has been working with for kind of like the latter half of this year in 2020, as we find ourselves under the control of this deep state, this police state that we are living in. And the goal really is to subdue the public, eliminate friction, eliminate resistance as far as possible, insofar as the only people who are resisting are a small group, not only guys like myself and ShrimpZoo, Paul Cottrell, George Webb, etc., the greater neighborhood news network, but people like you who are tuning in and supporting us, because this cannot be done without the support of viewers like you. So I do want to make that clear as well, that this is a team effort and something that cannot be done alone. Individuals do not survive during wartime, folks. And let's take a look at the comments here. I got a lot of people tuning in. We do thank everybody for tuning in this evening, and I do want to thank people for the support. Even if you are just subscribing and liking and sharing our content, that is all that we can really ask for. And I see some people are saying they found me through Kirsten W in Sarasota, and I just left Sarasota last week to come here in Atlanta. Thanks to Mr. George Webb for sponsoring me for that, as well as Mr. Adler, Aaron Adler, who's been an avid sponsor of mine as well. I gotta put this up. Not a chance. Eddie's hair rocks. So yeah, one guy vote for me. So we will maybe decide that competition next time. Next time. And the first time that I encounter Mr. Cottrell, Dr. Cottrell, Biden wants to smell your hair. Probably. And the fact that people consider Biden to be some sort of independent political candidate is just absurd to me. He is China. He's backed by China. And I would encourage people to check out the most recent video. I believe it was the most recent video I posted on my channel. I posted it 7 hours ago. CCP member on Trump, Biden, and the trade war, how he talks about the difficulty or challenge that Donald Trump has provided insofar as standing up to China, standing up to the Chinese monetary and economic influence into not just the United States of America, but the West at large. And I do want to make the point that the communists are not to be underestimated. That is one of the greatest mistakes one can make. In Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, states something to the similar sentiment of do not underestimate your enemy. And that's something that I try not to do, is to underestimate these Kabbalists, these elitists, the communists. They all are a part of this group, right? This group of people who want a one world communist state, a one world global order. And I'm just tying it back actually to this ridiculous story about aliens being in contact with Israel for 50 years or whatever. Why are they bringing this out now? Who knows? Do they feel fear? Do they feel like this is now or never insofar as pushing forward this absurd idea of aliens trying to invade us and pushing forward the one world government? It seems like it. Why else would they be putting this absurd story forward? What are your thoughts, Shrimp? Are we to be concerned about possible aliens according to the Israelis and Mossad?
I don't know. What do you think? A lot of this stuff is coming out.
A lot of propaganda is coming out. That's what I think.
It's possible.
I do want to say I am here in Atlanta until probably the end of next week, after which my schedule is somewhat up in the air. I may be heading to South Carolina next, maybe heading to Florida after that, or before that. But regardless, I do want to make my way up to New York to visit ShrimpZoo and our colleagues in the great city of New York City as well. So do be on the lookout for that, folks. This is it turned out to be a full-time gig for me as this year has transpired, and as the events of this year have unfolded. I do feel very fortunate to be one of these people on the front lines reporting everything that has been going on, not only in my state of Wisconsin, which is my home state, but every state that I've been in since then, whether it's Maryland, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, New York, Oregon. One thing has pretty much been constant, with the exception, of course, of the communist state of Oregon, and that is almost overwhelming support for Donald Trump. And I do think the reason populism has risen again is because of the failed world order, the failed order of everything that's been going on with regards to the United Nations, the UN, NATO, these huge influx of immigrants coming from Africa as a result of the bombings of the previous administration, Obama, making slavery great again in Libya, such that you can buy male 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds for $200. As cheap as $200, you can buy a human in Libya. And I've seen videos of this. Now, Civil War just said Patreon is an anti-free speech platform. And I do want to give a shout out to my mentor, Master Webb, Jedi Master George Webb, as well, because he just lost his Twitter. Before that, he lost his YouTube. And I actually haven't shared this thought on air before, but the possibility of accompanying George to Ireland to get his YouTube channel reinstated. Let me know what you guys think about that, because and the reason I bring this up is another one of my mentors and colleagues, Ryan Dawson, who I hold in very high regard, also lost his YouTube channel within the past couple of years, and he's had his YouTube channel terminated 4 times. And the only reason I believe he still has access to that YouTube channel is because he flew to Dublin which is one of the headquarters of the empire of YouTube, requesting that his channel be reinstated. I do think if we were to successfully get George Webb's channel reinstated by making a trip to Ireland, it would be 100% worth it because of that reach. And it is hard to regain that traction, regain that momentum. And it's frustrating. It really is. It's maddening when you see the controllers censoring guys like Ryan and George, especially George recently. He's been really under the microscope of these censorers as it stands now today. So if you guys would be interested in supporting such a trip to Ireland to get George Webb's channel reinstated, please let us know, because it's something that we want to do. We want to support George Webb in his pursuit of making journalism great again, making reporting great again. Just journalism, but finding the truth as well. So I think that's an idea I do want to bring forth to George. Is going to Ireland and see if we can get that channel reinstated, because he did have 105,000 subscribers, which is nothing to shrug at here in the YouTube sphere. And many journalists want to think of themselves as on the front lines. But if you aren't getting censored, if you aren't getting attacked, can you really say that you're on the front lines if you are towing the line that the censors have provided? If you are kowtowing to these people, it doesn't mean you aren't doing great work as a journalist, reporter, but it does mean that you are not putting forth information that is so dynamite, such that they do feel the need to censor you. So there's my spiel about that. And certainly something I would be up for. I've never been to Ireland. I would like to go. I have been to, it's Reykjavik airport. Is that Ireland or Iceland? I think it's Iceland. Maybe somebody can help me out here, but Iceland. Okay, Iceland. So yeah, I've been to Reykjavik and Iceland airport, but Ireland never been to. I would love to. I'd love to go. Certainly, if it means that we can get George's channel reinstated. But yeah, what are your thoughts on all that, Sherm? Everything that's going on as far as censorship. I know you've been a victim of that as well.
There's going to be a purge when Biden takes over, because the leftist like tech media will feel more like enabled to be able to purge the right. And I'm viewed as like right wing, even though I'm not right wing at all. So yeah, though censorship's going to be like way higher when Biden takes over. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. And I think people are glad to hear that, because I think a lot of people who do listen to us, Shrimp, they think of you as very left leaning. But I think that's just a testament to the.
Well, YouTube, you guys might think I'm left wing, but that's like the irony of it, is YouTube views me as too right wing. So I'm viewed as too right wing by YouTube.
And I think that's just a testament to the dichotomous times we live in, because they want us to pick a side. They don't want it's people like us, Shrimp, that really are a monkey wrench in the system in many ways. People who have this nuanced thinking. And I was talking to one of my best friends in England earlier today about this, and I don't want to believe that this ability to see things in nuance is something that is innate or gifted. I think it can be learned. I think that people don't have to fall into the if you're not with me, you're against me paradigm in the left and right debate, even though in American politics. It's very much a team sport, unfortunately. I want to see a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party, the Greens, the Libertarians, especially. Uh, I consider myself, if I had to pigeonhole myself in one way or another, it would be libertarian with a small L, for freedom. And there's this concept too I wanted to bring forth of agorism. Agorism. And I talked to the gentleman from the Free Thought Project who goes by Matt Agorist. And agorism is a social philosophy that advocates creating a society in which all relations between people are voluntary exchanges by means of counter economics, engaging with aspects of non-violent revolution, such that all interactions are not under the threat of force, which is definitely not how we are living today. I got thrown out of Lenox Mall 2 days ago. Very cantankerous, annoying black woman cop who asked that I leave the mall. I said yes, regardless. She followed me all the way out. She watched me. She exited the building and watched me as I left the premises. I was completely cooperative, regardless. She still felt the need to call backup. This police officer, his last name was Linares. He wouldn't give me his badge number, even though I requested it. And as far as I'm aware, you're required by law to give your name and your badge number to a citizen of the United States if it is requested. They didn't feel the need to do that. Then what am I supposed to do? These police officers can do whatever they want. They have qualified immunity. They can kill me. They can rape me. They can do all that to my children as well. And that's not to say I don't agree or advocate for the idea of police officers and a police force that is adherent to the Constitution of a republic. But you also have to look at what is going on in reality. Are these police officers, politicians, military, are they adhering to the Constitution of the United States? This year, I would say more often than not, they are not. They are adhering to whatever their boss tells them, whatever the fascists, the corporate elitists who can control our world as it stands today. They're listening to them. They're not listening to our Constitution. And another thing too is something that I learned from Mr. Agorist at the Free Thought Project, which I would encourage, especially anybody who finds themselves thinking they are part of the Back the Blue movement, kind of blindly supporting police officers, is to check out. Just go on the Free Thought Project. Google the Free Thought Project. Jason Bessler, I think his name is, and Matt Agorist do great work over there. They do reporting on cop murders, cop rapists, and I don't mean just raping women. I mean raping children. I mean killing children, killing unarmed citizens of our country. These things do not get reported on by the mainstream media, and they rarely get reported on by the independent media as well. I think partially because of the fear aspect of it. Because when you look at things in reality, again, I'm for the idea of police, but in reality, they are acting as a fascist paramilitary arm of the elitist class. The richest among us is who they protect, and they are not illegally obligated by the Constitution to protect us, which is something I didn't know either. And that's not to say I don't want to respect police, but as it stands today, I fear police more than I have any respect for them. And I do think that is the case for most people. There is not really respect. I think people moralize and they turn fear into some sort of virtue where they kind of trick themselves into thinking that they respect police when in fact they do not respect police. They fear the sword. They fear the gun. which is very, very unfortunate. And it's something rhetorical I've heard from a guy like his name escapes me at the moment, but he used to work on the border as a security officer for the Mexicans and the Americans, and he talks about this too, where he makes the joke that the Americans are not free, as free as they wish to believe that they are, which is quite unfortunate, because our Constitution leads us to believe, or the idea of our Constitution, the ideal is freedom, but in reality, it's just not the case, and it certainly wears on me. I would say, especially, the other day I was feeling quite down about our situation, to the point where I debated, and it was more of an emotional reaction rather than any sort of intellectual point, or strategic intellectual point that I was making, where I just felt like moving to a different country and giving up on our country. And it does get to that point sometimes where you get so worn out and disappointed with the state of affairs in our country. But if we can't afford freedom here in the United States, then I don't think it can be found anywhere. But that is why we're here and fighting the good fight. So there you have it, folks.
Did you hear about the new mysterious disease in India? It started about almost a week ago, and it was like 30 people. And then the next day it was like 200 or 300, and now it's like over 500. It was like 5 days ago. One person has died so far. They think it might be a pollutant in the air or a pollutant in the water or something. They're not really sure what it is, but there's a new mysterious disease going around in India. Hopefully it's like a pollutant or something like that, because if it's a virus or a bacteria, that wouldn't be very good. And it's not COVID, because they tested everybody for COVID and nobody had it. So it doesn't seem that deadly, but people are having like seizures and hysteria. They're like passing out, vomiting. And the one person that died was like 50 years old, and he didn't have any apparent signs of death or anything. So they're not sure exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I did read the headline. I didn't look into it too deeply, but I do want to make the point that, because somebody's calling me a leftist just because I'm criticizing police, which I think is just falling into that false dichotomy of back the blue or Antifa, and there's not, there's a middle ground. There's a middle ground. You can still criticize police and be supportive of the ideal of police, which I think I'm for.
Last time I knew you, you didn't like police.
I will admit it. I do not like police. I don't like talking to police. I say as little as I can to police. I don't trust police in any sort of way. If anybody, and it's hard for, I think, certain demographics to understand. And I think this is something we've talked about before. If you're a white woman, if you're a woman in general, it's hard to understand if you've never had that personal experience of being harassed by police. And pretty much every guy I know has been harassed by police, almost without exception. So, it is part of the agenda, is removing the warrior class, the military age males, incarcerating them and getting them in a weakened state, you got this trend in the United States of, and I've heard very, very right-leaning people, women say this as well, where they say that men have been castrated because all they want to do is please women. And I think we are at that point now with regards to the Me Too movement and just women's rights in general. And I'm all for egalitarianism and equality of opportunity, but equality of outcome is a communist principle. It's communism. Equality of outcome is not real. It's a communist fantasy. I will never be equal in any absolute sense to ShrimpZoo, George Webb, Aaron Adler. We will never be equal in any sense, let alone the larger public. And I think people have to be aware of their privileges that are afforded to them because of race and or gender, but at the same time, to be aware of the fact that we should all be treated equal under law. But in reality, that is not the case. And a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the stats are there. The documentation is there. Men are given harsher sentences for the same crimes, and people of color are given slightly harsher sentences for the same crimes, not as pronounced, shall we say, as a gender. I do think that our justice system is more sexist than it is racist. But it's more classist than anything else, I think, because if you do have money, if you are a billionaire, you are untouchable as it stands. And we saw this with Epstein. The only reason he saw any sort of justice, quote unquote, is because his buddies, his billionaire, quote unquote, buddies, wanted him killed because they posed a threat to them, not because they posed a threat to justice. Not because Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell posed a threat to justice, because they posed a threat to the other billionaires, the other members of this club that none of us are a part of and none of us will ever be a part of or invited to. So there are good cops out there. There are great teachers out there. But when you're fighting against a system, a systemic indoctrination, a systemic unfairness, whatever you want to call it, I think the system is more classist than it is racist or sexist. But these spectrums, as I like to call it, because the world is, with the exception of mathematics and physics, mostly something that you could look at in terms of a spectrum than a binary meter, right? Very few things are binary in the world. And I don't want to say black and white, because black and white are colors. And if you know anything about colors, black and white are not opposites in effect. White is the absence of color, black is every color. So, there's a cognitive bias of black and white thinking, which is a misnomer in and of itself. I think it should be called binary thinking, or light switch thinking, as Ryan called it, light switch thinking. So this is what they want. They want us to think in light switch terms or binary terms. They don't want us to think in terms of spectrums, because that nuance opens the door for cohesion among all of us, cohesion among people, regardless of race, or class, or gender. And this is what they do not want. They want us to be divided according to our colors, race, gender, age, class, you name it. Because a populace divided is a populace that is easy to control. So I'll leave it at that. And we've been going about an hour and 5 minutes here, Shrimp. So I'll pass it off to you before we sign off. What are your final thoughts, Shrimp?
Just thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Go to my channel, because I have a few channels now. I have a prepping channel now, the Virus Prepper. There's this channel if you're watching it. Yeah, so go check out all my channels. Go check out all Addy's channels. Check both of us out on Twitter at Addy Ads and at ShrimpZoo because we both post stuff on Twitter.
And please go subscribe to George Webb's Twitter as well. And I will put that in the description box as well. And if you can't find it in the description box, please go to my Twitter. I have retweeted George several times over the past couple days. He just lost his Twitter thanks to a very sophisticated professional hacking, which got through not only his password, but the thumbprint two-factor authentication as well. These people are professional, the highest level possible hackers. And thanks to Deborah Johnson, who's one of my sponsors as well, for plugging my Patreon. This is completely crowdfunded work that we are doing. We are not a part of the deep state. I'm from Wisconsin. My Wisconsin boy from the Chippewa Falls area, similar to Mr. Jack Dawson from one of my favorite movies, The Titanic. I am just a young man trying to find his place in the world. And I think ShrimpZoo is the same over there in Buffalo, New York. So we will leave it at that and be on the lookout for more casts, more broadcasts in the future, folks. We got to beat these people, and we're going to beat these people. And even if they do succeed in pulling off this coup, which is quite apparent to anyone, I was talking to Christian Gray earlier. I had dinner with Christian Gray, aka ATL Gray, for my Webbies in the audience. They might know who ATL Gray is. He's in the comments. We were talking about the coup and the possibility of the coup succeeding. We have to, keep fighting the good fight. And if Biden does succeed in this coup, or rather, I think more accurately put, Kamala Harris and the DNC, the Chinese, we got to keep going. So I'll leave it at that, and stay tuned, stay vigilant, and stay frosty, folks. We will see you all next time.